Everybody, welcome to another Comic Source Comic Boom collaboration time for Spawn Daily. We're up to issue number 38. Let's go ahead and dive into the issue for today. It's, as I said, Spawn number 38. For the first time, we have Tony Daniel on the book. Tony Daniel drawing Spawn, and he even does the cover. And last issue, we met the Freak, who was a new character that sort of interesting. Sort of persuasive. Al Simmons saw a lot of himself in the Freak, and the Freak was able to take advantage of that in terms of getting Spawn to help him kill ultimately what is probably an innocent man. This issue is similar in that it doesn't talk a lot about those other plot lines that have been going on for a long time, and I talked a little about it last time about how I hoped that this issue 38 would be a return to some of those, at least checking in on some people. Let's check in on Terry Fitzgerald and his wife, Wanda Blake, the ex-wife of Al Simmons. Let's check in on Sam and Twitch. Let's check in on Winn and the Violator / Clown. What are all these different characters up to? And my thinking was, at the time, this thing's coming out monthly. Obviously, I'm reading it, every day. So if I have to wait 2 or 3 days before we check in on someone, it's not that big of a deal. But when it's, a serialized story like this and you're waiting months in between, you don't really want to go 2 or 3 months before you check in on somebody if it's an important plot line, because people are going to forget. So I'm trying to, be objective when I review it and keep in mind the context with which it was released. I will say that the introduction of the recap paragraph in the front, along with, I think, with just McFarlane's realization that he could let the art do more of the heavy lifting, and we didn't have to have these pages that were just giant walls of text and these big exposition dumps, and we haven't had that for quite a while. So as you can see, as I mentioned, it is a Tony Daniel cover. It's really cool looking. Got some sort of mad scientist looking guy in the front with a big mustache and some fringy hair, and then behind him what looks to be, I don't know, like just some sort of monster. Almost looks like Overkill in a way, but he's got fangs. Looks like one arm is robotic. So we'll dive into the story and we'll see how that all plays out. So with the credits here, we see Todd McFarlane and Julia Simmons are credited with the story. Tony Daniel on pencils, as I said. Kevin Conrad on inks now rather than Todd McFarlane. And we've seen special thanks to Kevin Conrad on a lot of previous issues. So now kind of understand what he's doing, maybe inking backgrounds, maybe doing some shading, inker by trade apparently. Tom Orzechowski's on letters. We have a new colorist for the first time. All the previous issues had been colored by Steve Olive, and for the first time, as I said, we have somebody other than that, which I have to be honest, I didn't really notice a difference. So I think this Todd Broeker does a great job, and perhaps some of it is due to his computer color assist that he gets from Roy Young. Really couldn't say. But anyway, as the story unfolds, we see that there's a guard. He's in a guard booth, wondering why this guy's driving up to his booth in the middle of the night. Nobody has an appointment as far as he knows. He asks for identification. The guy gives him some ID, but it's expired. When he goes to confront the guy just takes him out, like kills him. Pretty brutal, and says that that was too easy. And then he enters this house, this mansion. Again, no context. We're not really sure. We find out that his name is Chris, and we're just completely unsure of what he might be up to. All he told the guard was that he was coming to see the professor, whoever that might be. The guard said, well, he's not expecting you. So, yeah, what exactly is going on? We're really not sure, but it does appear as he starts to wander around the house that there are plenty of cobwebs and plenty of areas of the house that have been neglected. But he comes across, and this is interesting, again, dating the series very much. He comes across a VHS player and some tapes, and they're labeled Anna 1975, Anna 1981, Anna 1986. So clearly this guy's on a mission to retrieve some sort of data or research has been researching. So meanwhile, back in the alleys of Spawn's neighborhood, he is searching for the weapons that he stole way back. I think it was like issue 6 or 7 that he stole from an army, like a secret army supply area. And we find that he's able to find them. He wasn't able to find them previously, but now he is, and he's saying that he's ready for his battle with Winn. You know, the last time we saw him going up against Winn, we thought he'd been taken out by a missile from a helicopter. And we know that Terry Fitzgerald, in Spawn's mind, is the one that saved Winn. And so Spawn feels extremely betrayed by that. He's very angry. And Cagliostro's there, and he's being very cryptic, very vague, like he often is. He's like, oh, you're preparing for war when you have no idea who the real enemy is. You're chasing a red herring. And we'll have to see what he means by that in a little bit. Meanwhile, back at the abandoned, what appeared to be an abandoned mansion, this man, Chris, is watching some VHS tapes, as I said. We're getting some context for the story. Apparently, this doctor, Frederick Wilhelm, was born in Geneva, Switzerland. He was very poverty-stricken as a boy. He became a doctor. He was working in the service, armed services, I guess, as a doctor. He met a nurse that he fell in love with named Anna, and they eventually got married, and he was very devoted to her. And after the war, she suffered some miscarriages, and so the doctor did some studies of her, did some tests and whatnot, and discovered that she had a very rare neurological disorder, which was causing the miscarriages and also causing her health to decline. So he felt like his life would have no meaning if he lost her, so he focused on studying neurology, and he vowed to save her life or die trying. And he even took his own blood, we see in the bottom right panel there, when she needed transfusions to try to save her. Eventually, the United States, some companies learned about his research. He was looking into possibly grafting some simian, some kind of simian ape body DNA, something. And so they brought him over, and he demanded that they bring Anna as well, and he would be able to use his studies and their resources to try to keep her alive, but nothing he could do was keeping her alive. And basically they set him up in this mansion where he could do his research. And what he learned was that if he grafted on some cybernetic extremities or cybernetic parts onto the human body, the threshold of the human body wasn't strong enough. So he turned to the simian research that other divisions at the company had been doing. It's like, okay, if I transfer her brain into the body of a simian, like an ape, basically a monkey, gorilla, whatever, and then add cybernetic implants to that animal body, because the threshold of a simian is pain threshold so much higher, and then with the cybernetic enhancements, it'll live much longer than its natural life, and I'll be able to save my wife. So clearly this guy has lost it, right? Like he's lost the plot. He's gone way too far. And he wasn't able to solve the problem in time, and eventually his wife was dead. And at that moment, he needed to do whatever he needed to do to get the job done. But unfortunately, at the moment when it was most important, he suffered a stroke, and then the tape ends because the power goes out. So this guy, Chris, is like, well, apparently that's what he's looking for. He's looking for this research, the research notes of this doctor. So he's going to have to go hunting around in the dark, apparently, in this mansion. So meanwhile, back in the alley, that cryptic, vague statement by Cagliostro about, your Winn's a red herring and you know what you're doing. And Spawn's like, what are you talking about? You've been encouraging me to go after Winn, and now you're saying don't go after Winn. And Cagliostro's like, I'm not saying don't go after Winn, but your murder doesn't begin or end with him. He ordered it, but you need to find out, who was pulling his strings. Who do you think has the real power? And Spawn's like, you don't get it, right? Winn made Chapel kill me. He gave the order. So Winn did it. And I'm going to take him out. And that's just the bottom line. So Cagliostro's like, but doesn't that seem too convenient, right? Doesn't it seem like there could be somebody else behind it? And Spawn's like, what are you getting at, right? I was recruited by the government because of my, track record in the service to be part of the Secret Service. I saved the president's life, and that got me into Winn's outfit, and then he betrayed me. And Cagliostro's like, yeah, think about what you're saying. Like, consider how much effort and influence it takes to take you out, right? And basically what Cagliostro is hinting at is the reason Spawn was taken out is because some shadowy power, some organization wanted the president dead, is what he's hinting at. And the whole reason that Al Simmons got promoted to his Secret Service detail, the president's Secret Service detail, is because they wanted a scapegoat. They underestimated Al Simmons, basically, is what they're saying, right? So they underestimated Al Simmons. He was able to prevent the president from being killed. And then at that point, Al Simmons was in a lot of ways untouchable, right? Because he was America's hero. And, if he'd been missing or something had happened to him, it would draw too much attention to whatever this shadow organization is, this deep state kind of conspiracy sort of organization. So, at that point, they said, okay, how are we going to get rid of him? We'll transfer him to Winn's, under Winn's care, into Winn's world, his United States security group. And then eventually there will be a time where we'll be able to take him out. And Cagliostro is like, you do what you want, but you got to see that Jason Winn is just a small piece of a bigger puzzle. And you're a puppet and you're going to be blowing it if you just go and take him out. You got to start thinking like a free man. And I get Al Simmons' frustration, right? He's like, man, all along you've been encouraging me to go take out Winn, and now I'm ready to do it. And now you're talking about deep state conspiracy, blah blah blah, right? So I'm sure Al Simmons' Spawn's head spinning. He doesn't know what to think. So meanwhile, in the mansion, Christopher is this agent, whoever he is, who also doesn't really mind killing. Apparently, he took out that guard, which I find strange, to just kill him. But whatever. He comes across the body of Anna, and it turns out she really is dead, or her body is anyway. But as you can see in the art there, her brain is being kept alive in like this fluid. And so that was the whole point of what the doctor was doing in trying to keep her alive until he could get the brain transferred to, another simian, cybernetic simian body, not another, but into a cybernetic body. So as he opens the door and sees this horrific scene before him, with Anna just, having rotted away, just really creepy, the power goes back on and the tape starts back up. And the doctor's worried about being eaten and how Anna must be protected because this thing that he's hinting at hasn't been fed in a long time. Weeks have passed, and he's really worried. So the power then goes out again, and Christopher's like, man, not again. He still hasn't found the research. So he goes poking around a little more, and he thinks, oh, this has to be it. It's the last room that I haven't opened, I haven't looked in. And when he opens it up, yeah, it's all chained up, but we can see it looks pretty ferocious there from Tony Daniel. It's that same creature that we saw on the cover. You see the one cybernetic arm, you see the fangs, you see the red eyes. It's definitely some sort of cybernetic ape. And we're told for the first time in 3 weeks, the ape eats fresh meat. So it sounds like Chris did not survive the encounter. Meanwhile, Spawn goes to check on Grandma Blake and apologizes for not coming to see her sooner. He talks about being busy. And she says, well, I'm grateful that you come and visit me. any time that you do. And Spawn's there to sort of to be comforted by her in a lot of ways. Like, she's happy to have Al there. She thinks he's an angel, and she's happy that she gets to talk to her beloved grandson. But she does. I don't think she realizes that Spawn's getting as much from her as she is from him, if not more. And she's reminding him that he was a true hero. I mean, he feels so used, from what Cagliostro said about being put in that spot to protect the president because they were expecting him to fail, and the only reason he wasn't killed sooner is because he was sort of untouchable. And Grandma's talking about how she's been talking to Wanda, and Wanda mentioned that a demon came and tried to tell her it was Al, and obviously we know it was Al. And Grandma Blake said, you got to try to protect them from this creature. Her and Terry are both attacked by this creature. They're both scared. So you got to try to help them. You got to keep that evil man away from them. So it's so interesting. She's talking about Spawn. She's talking about Al Simmons himself. And he says, I'm trying. And she says, okay, well, come along then. And she gets up from her chair. She says, I want to show you a picture of their little girl. So it very much seems like Spawn is lost at this point. He doesn't know what to do. He went with the freak. He saw the freak get revenge, and he's talked about how that focused him, and he was ready to go get his revenge, and that led him to hunting down the guns that he had previously misplaced, that he had stolen from the U.S. Army military weapons depot, and was ready to just go take out Winn. And then, finally, when he feels like he has some agency and he has some control, and he's going to go take out Winn, and here comes Cagliostro, like sowing doubt and distrust. And so, yeah, you wonder about the organization that Cagliostro is a part of, because we've been told that it doesn't have allegiance to heaven or hell. But I wouldn't go so far as to say it's neutral. It hasn't picked a side, but I think it's on its own side. But again, that's just speculation because we don't have enough information. As far as the art, it's pretty strong art from Tony Daniel. I do feel like he uses a little bit of a finer line that I'm used to him using, and it definitely looks, a little McFarlane-esque, but similar to what we saw with Greg Capullo's art when Greg was first on the book. It's not, the anatomy is not as exaggerated as you might normally see it. And I almost think at times the line weights are too fine. Like if we look here at this page where we see Anna for the first time, like the little texture on her nurse's outfit or whatnot, it doesn't look quite strong enough for me. The line weights are just and I like fine lines, don't get me wrong, but I feel like the line weights, it pulled me out of the story a little bit, and the backgrounds are light as well. A lot of shadows, even back here. It's just a gray wall. I know I'm nitpicking. I think for the most part, the art is strong, and the storytelling is really, really good, as are the facial expressions. I think this is probably the earliest work of Tony Daniel that I can recall seeing, and I think he's gotten better with time. And also, some of this might be his inker, Kevin Conrad, just based on the style that previous Spawn issues have had, and perhaps that's what Kevin Conrad is trying to emulate. So overall, the art is strong. Like I said about the colors by Todd Broeker, I don't really notice a difference between these colors and the colors that Steve Olaf was putting down. The color work is very strong. Again, we did have that recap paragraph summing up Spawn 37 on the inside. We didn't get a lot of exposition here. We certainly didn't get any dialogue dumps. So good job by Todd McFarlane. Don't know how the breakdown went between him and Julia Simmons, who scripted or whatnot, but overall an interesting issue. But other than checking in a tiny bit on Grandma Blake and knowing that Spawn's conflicted, we still didn't get anything on Terry or Wanda, but certainly a step in the right direction. But I really hope we see them next issue to kind of give us a status quo of where those two are at. So, but like I said, it definitely feels like Al Simmons is lost right now. Doesn't know if he's coming or going, doesn't know if he should take out Winn or not take out Winn. Like in my mind, just take out Winn. Whatever Cagliostro says, whatever. Take out Winn, and then if there's people above him that were making, giving the orders or making Winn take out Al Simmons, whatever, then you cross that bridge when it comes to it, right? Like, take out Winn and let it be known that you're the one that took him out, that Spawn took him out. And if he has allies that are worried that Winn might have said something before he died, they'll come after you. And then you get them that way. So I don't know, like, in my mind, justice needs to be served. If I'm Al Simmons, that's definitely the path I take. So anyway, well, I guess we'll see. We'll see what happens in the next issue number 39. So tune in for that one tomorrow. Appreciate you guys listening as always. If you're checking us out on YouTube and you've never gone and listened to any of the audio-only content, we do encourage you to do that. We have tons of back matter, tons of interviews with creators that we've done, and more to come. We just recently had a Jeremy Adams interview. Earlier this week we had Christopher Priest. So there's a lot of great content there on the audio-only channel. So just head over to your favorite podcasting application on your smart device or your favorite podcasting platform, Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify, iTunes, whatever it is. Do a search for the Comic Source and hit subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the content. So we really appreciate you guys joining us as always, and we'll talk to you next time.